moving on, we're going to be talking about Manchester United. Now, their ongoing deal for 16-year-old wonder kid James Overy has been held up due to FIFA rules. What do you make of that ongoing transaction and the slowness of this deal?
Well, I think we're going to be talking soon about another transfer held up with a young player to Liverpool as well. And this seems to be all pretty much related the same way, that there's a bit of a clampdown now on the movement of young players. A lot of attention being paid by FIFA and other authorities to make sure that they're not being trafficked in some way, and that the clubs are not paying undue inducements to parents in some way. So it's quite good, I think, that we're actually seeing this sort of focus, and that the regulations are all there for a reason and they should be adhered to. Clubs just can't flaunt the regulations. We know they want to try, but particularly in this case of 16-year-olds and other underage players, it's important that the regulations are adhered to. They're there for a very good reason. And as I understand this one with Man United, he's come across from Australia, and he hasn't served the requisite time before he's been able to transfer from his UK club into United. And so to me, it does seem like a pretty clear breach of the regulations. So I would think it could be held up for a while.
So on that note then, Keith, I mean, long term, do we expect the deal to go through? And actually, how long could it take? And you sort of hinted in there about a delay. Could United face any sanctions potentially? Or is it more likely that the deal will just be delayed until the player is able to transfer?
No, I don't think there'll be any sanctions. I think it's a case that they haven't followed the letter of the regulations. I think that I believe it's 16 weeks that they have to play in the UK for another team. So the thinking behind that is that there isn't just a bridging club, so that United just don't buy from the parent club in Australia and then make up some sort of, bridging sort of loan club in the UK that apparently he plays for, when in reality it's just to try and get around the regulations. But apparently he hasn't even spent the 16 weeks at the club in the UK. So I would expect them to say, no, you've got to hang on, you've got to show us more. They may even reset the clock and say start again. Because I think they want to make a point out of this. And I think it's important that football is responsible when it comes to these sort of age groups of players. And so I think this is something that the authorities will stick pretty hard on, because it will play well with the public.
Talking of transfers, Keith, Dan Ashworth mentioned that he won't rest until standards improve at the club on the field, not only off the field. What do you make of that? And do you think he said that out of his own ambition? Or do you think maybe with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that was a decision they felt he should publicly state to kind of get fans on side going forwards?
Well, as you know, I've been very critical of Ratcliffe in recent weeks and the way that he's handled the starting of his sort of tenure. I've got to say, I was pleasantly surprised by Dan Ashworth's statements during the week. I thought, oh, here we go, the grown-ups are back, and somebody with football experience actually talking about what they know about and meaning what they say, and it has some resonance. And so, look, I think Ashworth is a serious player. He knows his stuff. And I think it's right what he's saying. Unfortunately, it's too late in many areas. I mean, here we are now, nearly the end of July. He should have been in place, as I've mentioned many times before, back in May, June. And he could have had a much bigger impact, and United's window would have gone a lot more smoothly. And that's all down to Sir Jim. So I was pleased to see people with genuine football experience making proper football statements. And I think what he said made sense. And hopefully he's going to be working quickly so that things don't slip too much for them.
And in terms of their signings, Keith, we know they've brought in Joshua Zirkzee, Lenny Yoro, two sort of marquee signings on the league. Do you think that is proving their ambition? And how much involvement do you feel that potentially Dan Ashworth had in those deals?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's been part of the problem, is that he seems to have broken his gardening leave a couple of times, is what the arguments have been about, although I don't know any of the details. Look, in these sort of things, I'm sure there's been some sort of input from him over discussions. What I do worry about is, and I mentioned this briefly before, is that we're getting a large Dutch influence into Man United. Now, it's not just on the pitch, but it's also behind the scenes. And one of the biggest cardinal rules that you try and do as a chief executive and as an owner is that if you're going to lose a manager, you try not to lose more than just his immediate backroom team. And, you might say at Aston Villa, if I lost the manager, I might lose another 3 key staff, but not the whole backroom staff. Now we're starting to get to the position where you may lose maybe up to 10 people if they were all to go as a Dutch contingent. And it also does lead to factions within the club as well, which is another issue that in terms of culture that I'm sure Dan Ashworth will be looking at. The players themselves, look, they're young, promise, and I think that's probably something that United have said they want to do, is bring in the younger age of the squad overall. And look, we've seen United make some mistakes with players in the past, but these two, look, on paper they look great, but can they do it in the Premier League? We've yet to see, and that's going to take a whole team mentality from Den Haag to get the tactics right to allow them to shine. He's getting what he wants, from what I understand, in many ways. Apparently, there's been angry words spoken between Den Haag and the hierarchy, which is never a great start. But nevertheless, he's there, he's pushing his point. So it's up to the team to start performing. But as we say, we're now getting, after the Euros and everything else as well, there's a lot of things going on, and they haven't really got that long to prepare now. And so this is going to be, I think, a slow season for United again. And they're going to have to, if they've got it all right, then it's almost like you have to stick with Ten Hag again the next year if you're going to really see the progress they're hoping for. So they're sort of making up their story as they go along, and it's not really quite the clean break we'd hoped for.
They're also eyeing a move potentially for Bayern Munich fullback Nazir. They're also eyeing up a fullback. It's the name, Keith. There we go. They're also eyeing up a move, Keith, for Bayern Munich fullback Nazir Mazraoui for about 20 to 25 million pounds potentially. What are your thoughts on that deal? And would that be another statement signing for them under Ten Hag, a bit like what you were hinting at?
Well, it's strange to see them chasing a player from Bayern Munich who are normally very good at holding on to the players they want to. When I looked into this one a little bit further, it does seem he's got an injury record that isn't the best. And while he may be a talented player, you've got to see, you've got to look at these sort of things. Now, obviously, United are going to do medicals, etc., but medicals don't always give you the story about the long-term resilience of a player. And I'd worry about that slightly, and also the fact that Bayern are prepared to let him go. There's been talks of swaps with Wan-Bissaka as well. Key areas that they've got to resolve in, because these days left and right fullbacks are absolutely crucial in squad formations and change of tactics. So, if his fitness is good, then it would be a good signing. But as I say, there is a big question mark.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.